Part 20. Hightailing. Heading south on Highway 33, 12:06 p.m. The hospital security car blasted across the lonely stretch of moonlit highway, headlights off, a ghost car punching a hole in the wind. Air blasted in the shattered window as the Terminator drove, easily staying aligned with the dotted dividing line. John could see the cyborg's eyes glow faintly red in the rearview mirror. Can you even see anything? The Terminator's real eyes behind the prop human ones were on night vision mode, probing the view ahead, drinking in the reduced photons to form a monochrome image of the highway that was bright as noon on a sunny day. Various readouts flashed by, giving the Terminator a holistic sense of motion and mass that made him the safest autopilot in creation. The Terminator replied in a matter-of-fact tone that would have sounded like bragging if Sarah and John didn't know their companion was a machine. Everything. Cool, John said, somewhat comforted. Sarah was studying the Terminator, still not quite believing this was happening. The Sarah who was always a few minutes late to her waitress job at Big Buns, so many years ago, needed to spend only another second or two dealing with the unbelievable. Then she turned to the most vital priority of her life. She faced John in the back seat. You okay? He nodded. She reached out for him. John's heart raced in his chest. His mother had never taken much time to show affection. There'd been too many other priorities. But now she was actually pulling him into an embrace. Maybe she'd changed. Maybe now she really cared about him, not his stupid mission in the future. Happily, he flung his arms around her. But instead of hugging him, she rubbed her hands over him, checking for injuries. To John, it seemed very clinical, the way a vet checks a dog for broken bones. There was concern, but not real love. He angrily pulled away from her, and this was no act. He hated her, always checking him, treating him like he might break, like some piece of rare china. I said I was okay. Sarah looked at him, exasperated and stern. It was stupid of you to go there. John could not believe her. Usually, you expect your mother to razz on you for doing something wrong, but now he was getting yelled at for saving her goddamn life. Before he could respond with his own consternation, the fires of her anger flared. God damn it, John! You have to be smarter than that! You're too important. You can't risk yourself, not even for me. Do you understand? I can take care of myself. I was doing fine. Jesus, John! You almost got yourself killed! His chin quivered. The old feelings were coming back now. She was putting up this image of some kind of Superman and trying to shove him into it. It was way too big, but she didn't seem to notice or care. She never did. And as usual, anything he did was inadequate. To stop the hot, shameful tears, he blurted, I had to get you out of that place. I'm sorry. John thought there seemed to be more compassion in the cyborg's empty eyes than in hers. The force of the tears wanting to come surprised him, and his face crumpled. He turned away, not wanting her to see him weaken. But she saw his body starting to rack with the sobs that he could not stop. She spoke more softly this time, more of a plea. Stop it. Right now. You can't cry, John. Other kids can afford to cry. You can't. The Terminator took one eye off the road, compensating with phantom depth perception, and looked at John hurriedly, wiping at his eyes. Fluid was leaking out. The Terminator searched in its memory for references, found nothing. Was this an injury? What is wrong with your eyes? Nothing, John sharply said, wiping his nose on his sleeve. Sarah took a breath, realizing how keyed up she was, Her whole body was vibrating, her mind was fragmented, the images and ideas of her life exploded, all the pieces now drifting back to mental ground level, where she was hurriedly trying to push them all back together. In there somewhere was a dim awareness of having done something wrong with her son. Again. It was hard raising a child as a single mother, but impossible when the child was to become the hub of destiny, a great leader of men, a man who would literally save humanity. She had to harden herself to learn survival skills, to kill the part of herself that loved tenderly. Once she had done so, everything became much simpler. But there was a price to pay. She and her son had been robbed of a normal life. All they knew was preparation for global war. And it had cost them. Sarah was doing her best, and defensive as hell about how she was going about it. She loved her son deeply, but if she showed it, might she not weaken the boy? He needed strength, wisdom, and skill with weapons, not love. But the hate in his eyes now. It had cost a lot. In the meantime, she was going on automatic reflexes, in a way like a machine. She turned to the Terminator, giving him another wary once-over. "So," she said, "what's your story?" Destiny's Jester, Pescadero State Hospital, 12:23 a.m. Black and whites were everywhere on the lawn, their Christmas lights whirling. Amid the flashing red and blue colours, it looked like a convention of flatfoots. Ambulances were shouldering their way through the throngs of confused staff and some wandering patients. Dr. Silberman muttered as the attendants dragged him towards an ambulance. His words ran together into an excited babble, but it wouldn't have made any sense to anybody, even if it slowed down to normal. He was saying, "It was all true, and we're all going to die, and the guy changed, and I saw him change, right before my eyes. He walked right through the bars like they weren't even there. You have to believe me, I'm not having a psychotic episode. I'm a doctor, and I know these things, and I'm telling you." His ramble was muffled as he was strapped onto a gurney, and they closed the doors on him. His days as a psychiatrist were over. Leonard Silberman, one of the lucky few to survive the first Terminator's assault years ago, was now the inadvertent victim of the second. Fate does love a jest. The T-1000 strode towards the main gate and the milling cops. A motorcycle cop going in the other direction slowed when he saw Officer Austin. "You okay?" The T-1000 spent 14 microseconds pondering the man's motorcycle. Then he said, "Gee, that's a nice bike." The 28 police officers and detectives on the grounds did not see the T-1000 drive away on the motorcycle. They wouldn't find the real policeman's body until a few hours later, stuffed unceremoniously into a trash dumpster. No one would ever suspect Officer Austin had anything to do with it, that he was the most dangerous thing on the planet, assigned by something that didn't even exist yet, to close the account book on humanity with one well-placed blow. They were too busy taking down the names of possible witnesses.